Afternoon and welcome back to Jeff and the Rabbi. Well, topic today, and it's an interesting one. We're going to talk about the Tsarnaev, if I got his name right, the younger brother who got convicted of the Boston bombing thing, and all 30 counts he was convicted. And now this week, I guess, or in this next couple of weeks, we're going to decide on his sentencing, whether it's death penalty or not death penalty. And before we get started, I just got to let you know that I just wanted to mention the topic. Rabbi Freeman, and this might be the good time to do it, I'm worried seriously about our ratings. I've been getting a lot of, and I think this is a weekend I wanted to bring up before we get to this topic, because, listen, death penalty or not death penalty, where's the rabbi going to stand on this? It's the Torah. He's going to go to the Torah, thou shalt not kill. I mean, come on. We all know where he's going.
God is merciful.
Yeah, God's merciful.
God is merciful. God forgives.
Yeah, but here's the problem I'm having here, and all the fan mail that I've been getting. I go through the stacks of it every week, and I finally get it all read. I was saying, Rabbi is like a one-trick pony here. He's got one book, one-trick pony. In fact, here I have one of the letters right here that I'm going to read to you. That just when I was reading this morning. Dear Jeff, keep up the great work. You're doing well. You're looking awesome. And too bad you didn't get that part replacing the guy in Comedy Central there, because they thought I was going to. Yeah, that's good. And a lot of other complimentary things that are right there. I won't read all of them, bore you with them. But then it gets to the heart of the letter.
Who signs it down? Is that Dina Friedman?
Yeah, that's exactly right. But it gets in the heart of the letter. It says, what's up with the rabbi? Yeah. What's up with the rabbi? He's got one book. Does he not know in the last 3,000 years they've written other books here? It's not just, yeah, I see. But he's stuck on this one book thing here. Doesn't he know it's 2015? Other than that, blah, 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 blah.
Okay, read slow.
He
haven't finished the book yet.
P.S. I love the hair. Sincerely, Mom. But so we're getting lots of letters like this, and what I'm worried about here is maybe they're right. Here's the problem here. You're so stuck on this whole Torah thing. By the way, that was a movie. It was a great movie back in the 70s. You're so stuck on the thing. You're so stuck in this, you're missing. Like, if we had listened to you, what would have happened in the last 6 years of all this beautiful progressiveness? If we had listened to you and just your Torah there, would we have a situation where we destroy the entire basis of traditional marriage? I mean, look at this. We've got a situation now. Would men be able to marry men if it was up to you? Would women be able to marry women? Would men be able to marry 2 women, 3 men, and a chihuahua? No, according to you, we'd have to stick with this basic thing of marriage. Hey, if it was up to you, would the new civil rights thing talk about cross-dressers now? People would not be able to go into a little boy in school would not be able to go to the bathroom in the girls' room if he wants to go to the bathroom. He wouldn't be able to play on the girls' team. There's so many things that wouldn't have happened in the last 6 years of enlightenment that we've had here, that I kind of consider these the last 6 years of enlightenment, wouldn't have happened if we stuck with your Torah book that we keep going here. I mean, the guy had a brother. This guy, let me give you the excuse for this guy. It wasn't his fault. His brother influenced him. And I know a lot about that. When I was a kid, I remember the same thing happened to me. My brother was only 2 years older than me. They had a party downstairs in their basement, him and all his friends, and they were drinking beer. A couple of my friends went down there. You know what we did? We drank beer. So I can understand. Yes. Schlitz malt liquor, if I remember correctly what it was. So I can understand how this guy's brother can convince him to go kill and maim a couple dozen people, because I was influenced by my brother as well. So all I'm saying here is, Rabbi Freeman, you need to open up a little bit more, get out a little more, get another book, go to the movies every once in a while.
You're losing all the older brothers, just turning, clicking that show off like left and right.
Go to a movie every once in a while. Listen, this guy, you can put him in jail. You don't have to kill him. Put him in jail 2 or 3 years, reform him. He can come out and get any job like Google or a writer for the Rolling Stone. They're hiring anybody these days at Rolling Stone to be writers. There's so many things this guy could do, but all you're going to do, fry him. Here comes Rabbi Freeman. Let's kill the guy. That's fine. So I just say, modern up a little bit. Maybe the show will last a little bit longer.
Yeah, and you know what? Not only do I want to fry him, I want one of the witnesses to flip the switch.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yes.
Wow.
Yes, I want
tough guy.
I want one of the witnesses that spoke out against him. I want them to flip the switch.
I mean, maybe that guy in the wheelchair doesn't have any legs anymore.
Yeah,
maybe he could do it.
One of those guys gets to flip the switch, and that's it,
He's a nice young kid. Don't you have any sympathy for anybody?
Right. So, there's a great line in the Torah.
Yeah.
It says, here you go again. It says, and all of the nation will hear and see, which means that when they would execute him, of course, they would do it publicly. and they will not ever premeditate to do these type of evil things again. Now, that seems to imply that the whole reason behind this is deterrent. If you don't fry them publicly,
Right.
then people are going to do this again. But if you fry them publicly, then everyone will say, whoa, I don't want to do that. But we know that really, plenty of people are doing all kinds of bad things.
Right, right.
And there's all kinds of bad things going on every day. And people are maiming and hurting and just doing all kinds of horrible things. And even when they're executing people, people are still doing horrible things. So you might say, are you really serious? Do you actually think that by executing this guy, now all of a sudden evil terrorists are going to stop doing bad things? Everyone's going to go, oh, wow, I can't do that. I could get killed. I could get prosecuted and executed even.
Right.
I don't think so. Because a lot of people all around the world say, hey, that sounds great, I get a chance to go on trial. I get a lot of PR. Everyone sees my picture.
Look, cover of the Rolling Stone.
Yeah, like if you Google Binyamin Friedman, how many pictures are you going to come with? Google Dzhokhar Tsarnaev, and the pictures don't end.
Right.
So if you really want to make something of yourself, this is the way to go. Go blow up a Boston Marathon. Maim and hurt people, kill people. So the real idea here is really important, and I really believe that this decision, although I have a tendency to feel which way this decision is going to go,
Right.
but I believe that this decision is really indicative of something very important about our society. It is important that this society that we live in should be able to look at some act. I don't care what that act is actually, but should be able to look at something, anything, and say, that is so abhorrent that we cannot tolerate it in our midst, and the
Right.
perpetrator who perpetrated cannot be tolerated in our midst. When that person chose to do what that person did, that person gave away any right or claim to be able to continue to exist within our society.
So you're talking about drawing a line and saying, this is bad, you've crossed the line,
Right.
no longer.
And you know what? I don't even care what the line is. I would just like to see if this society can draw a line. Any line. I don't care. Of course, there's lots of things. I might draw the line in one place and other people draw the line. Is there some place that the society
that's a good
anywhere can
question.
draw a line and say that, for example, killing and maiming indiscriminate people, young and old, who are absolutely have no malicious intent towards you, just killing and maiming strangers is somehow acceptable? Can you wake up tomorrow, now that we found the guy guilty?
Right.
Okay, and I'm really assuming that he is guilty beyond a shadow of a doubt. If there was any doubt, then I'm all with you. If there's any even remote doubt, then I'm with you. Do not kill a guy, because you can't take a guy's life if there's any chance,
Right, no, I'm with you there.
any real shred of doubt. However, we have an adult, right, who's supposed to be of sound mind and body. I mean, if Dzhokhar Tsarnaev was sitting on a jury, let's say he had, gotten his summons to the jury,
Right.
and he was sitting there at age whatever he is,
He's
20
now, I believe.
20,
20, maybe 21, but
21, okay, so he could be sitting on a jury somewhere, and he could be deciding whether the other guy goes to prison,
true.
right?
They're giving him
So
that
obviously
responsibility.
we respect him for being of sound mind and being able to think and being able to decide for himself and all that. So now I have to presume that at that age he's of sound mind and he could decide, do I want to maim and hurt innocent people or not? And when he decided to, and if it has been established as an absolute fact, and if no one's arguing that point, and it's been established as an absolute fact, then I say that our society has to say it is intolerable. He forgoes his claim to life, and we as a society cannot tolerate him in our midst. And don't say that, well, we're not going to tolerate him in our midst because we're going to send him forever to a prison.
Right.
That is tolerating them in your midst. It's just that you tolerate them only in a certain part of your midst. But prisons are also part of our society. Prisons are full of people that we have determined are still members of society. They have rights. Anyone that is given rights, that means that the society recognizes them. We feed them, we clothe them, we give them medical care.
Right.
And we do not abuse them. That means that they're still part of our society, except that we've determined that they have to stay in this one spot. But that is still part of your society. I'm saying that this society has to be able to say, this is intolerable. And if what he did is not intolerable, I cannot imagine that there could be anything that's intolerable.
Well, that might be the whole point here, because here you're saying, okay, what he did is intolerable, but you're not hearing the whole other side of the story. Look what these people did to our American society has gone over there into the Middle East, and we've supported Israel, and then we haven't supported the Palestinians. We're now negotiating with the Ayatollah Khomeini, who is responsible for how many American deaths? Right. He's responsible for Yemenite deaths. He's responsible for Jewish deaths. And we're negotiating. We're now take Hezbollah off the terrorist list. We almost supported Hamas over Israel in the war. How can we make this young man, look at the picture of this guy, he's a young kid. He's doing the same thing we're doing. We're negotiating with these other guys to give them a nuclear bomb, but you're saying we have to kill this guy? Who is the person making this decision here?
And if we have come to that, and if that is the motivation behind not being able to exterminate him, execute him, then we as a society have just decided that all bets are off.
But
it's a free-for-all.
Haven't we decided that?
It's an absolute free-for-all. Well, that's what I'm saying. That's why it still is up for grabs, because they're having a sentencing phase. Sentencing phase, one of the options in the sentencing phase is that he should be executed. Now, I'm glad to say that at least it's on the table.
And
That's a good thing.
And to add to that, they did, obviously, every member of the jury the question was put to them, would you be able to sentence someone to death if that comes up? And they all said yes.
Yeah.
So you're going to get a fair shot at it.
We're still, as a society, I think we still have our wits about us. You know?
At least a wit or two. I don't know how many wits, but yes.
I can understand if they can say that they have a question about whether or not the guy's guilty. Okay? Something's bothering them about that, and we've found all kinds of things, and DNA evidence is now turning up that people are sitting on death row really don't belong on death row. I'm 100%
with you there
for being super scrupulous, and in 99 out of 100 cases, giving him the benefit of the doubt, because maybe. And I go with that. I'll tolerate the guy because maybe, and to kill an innocent person is a bigger crime as he committed. To kill one innocent person is just as bad as the crime he committed. So, two wrongs don't make a right. So therefore, I can't kill him if there's a doubt. But if we as a society say there is no doubt, and if we believe in a jury system, and a jury of peers, and all this type of stuff, then what we have said is there is no doubt.
I don't think even his defense team argued that he didn't do it. So there is no doubt.
So in this case, there is no doubt. He's an adult male. He is considered to be of sound mind. Therefore, he must be eliminated from our society because he has done that which is intolerable to allow you to continue to exist and in the society of man. You have become such an abhorrent criminal that you can no longer exist within the society of man. In any society that does not have some parameter to their society to say that this action is outside of those parameters, then that society really is not a society. It's just chaos, it's just a jungle, and everybody just better go out and get guns.
Well, the argument for what you said, getting the guns might be an interesting argument. We just had a situation I read in California where I believe it was a 19-year-old boy, raped, I think, a 3 or 5-year-old girl, and the judge let him off, I think, with 3 years. So I don't know what society you're talking about. We do live in a different society. What I mean, you're talking about abhorrent behavior, and I mean, I understand the Boston bombing thing was about abhorrent behavior. I can't think of anything that's more abhorrent than a 19-year-old person raping a 3-year-old girl, and
Right.
he got off with it.
Right.
And he's going to be reformed, and he's going to society.
And these things happen. These things happen all over the place, and they are abhorrent. They are repugnant. They're disgusting. However, if they instead of, see, I can even, and this is like so hard for me to like even find any room in the case that you just gave to like see, but I could possibly see that they're going to try to reform this guy, the 19-year-old.
Right.
But if the alternative to execution is life imprisonment with no option for parole, which I believe is what they're going to offer.
I think it is. I think so, yeah.
So then what they're saying is we do not think that there's any reclaiming of this fellow. There is not going to be any repair of his murder, of his tortured soul or anything like that, right? So in that case, then what are you doing? You're saying, I believe that he is wicked, but yet I tolerate his continued existence. How is that? The reason it is because everyone is afraid to say that someone is so bad that we take away their life, because everyone is afraid to say that anyone can take away anyone else's life for fear that, of course, someone will take away their life. You know, I can't say that he's really, really, really bad, because I don't want anyone else to say that I'm really, really bad. And that is a chaotic situation.
Or are they saying, not that we all know he's really, really, really bad, but by whose definition? By Rabbi Friedman's definition. Rabbi Friedman, if we let this go down this road, letting Rabbi Friedman making his moral laws, then the next thing you know, I mean, you won't be able to marry a dog or a cat. And I think that's, and then what happens? I mean, I think the real reason is, and I think this in most cases with progressivism is, we can't go down that road, this Neanderthalic road of going back to the days of BC instead of 2015.
Right.
We're going to make the determination. How do we know this kid didn't have, he thought he was fighting for his God. He thought he was fighting for glory. How can we make a determination, Rabbi Friedman, that he's wrong? And I think maybe that's the real issue here.
So when the Torah says that a society has to eliminate, it uses the word in Hebrew, uviarta, you shall burn out of your midst, destroy it. The Torah is telling our society that every now and then, in order to keep yourself healthy, you actually have to be revolted by something and take action to expunge it.
Wow.
You have to physically expunge it, and everyone should be aware of it and know of it and do it. And that actually makes you healthier. Not that you do it very often. As a matter of fact, you rarely will do it. But A, it has to be on the books. And B, now and then it is carried out. What are the circumstances? If the society has determined, A, this is illegal to do what he did. Okay? We're all abhorred by that. B, he did it. Okay? He did it willfully. He did it premeditatively. He was of sound mind. So then C, we can't tolerate him. If you say, oh, well, he did it, but we could tolerate him. Oh, he did it, but he was influenced by his brother. Well, if he did it and he was influenced by his brother, then why are they going to put him away in prison for the rest of his life?
Right, let him go. Let him go there.
Yeah, I mean, it's influenced by his brother, so let the guy off. If you found him to be guilty, because they did, they found him to be guilty of the crime. I wasn't saying this last week because they hadn't yet found him to be guilty of the crime. Once they found him to be guilty of the crime, now I'm saying this. Up until then, you maybe want to make an argument. He's not guilty. It wasn't his fault, or mind control, whatever it was. Okay, fine. I can hear that's a debate. They found that's not the case. Now that he's been found guilty, the society needs to expunge him so that the society can find its moral compass.
Uh-oh. That might be the big problem. Again, I agree with you 100%, Rabbi Friedman. I know you didn't realize my first opening statement was a little bit sarcastic. I actually agree with you 100%.
I haven't ever noticed when you
there's some sarcasm.
keep missing that. I take it just that.
I know, you do. That's the problem. But I think you just hit on the holy grail of what the problem really is. You just said that the society has to do that, or there is no moral compass or code in society. And I think that's what we're really fighting against here. There's no doubt that everybody in Boston, and that's where the jury is, knows this guy's guilty. He got convicted on all 30 counts. I don't think there was much deliberation there. The problem is the moral compass. There's been a war, at least in the last 6 years, and actually a lot longer than that, about that moral compass. If we take the side, there has to be some side of this Tsarnaev kid. Mm-hmm. You know what? Maybe, listen, we're not the greatest people in the world. In America, we go out and we attack these people. Who's to determine, because he's against what we feel, that he should be put to death? Are we going to let, again, Rabbi Friedman make that moral compass, make those moral decisions? And I think that's what this is all about. The fact that there's even going to be a debate about, as you said, you can't argue what this kid did. The only reason there's going to be a debate is we do not want Rabbi Friedman or Preacher Jones out there to make a decision that everything is black and white. This is what it's going to be. He killed somebody, that we're going to put him to death. Well, okay, but it also says in the Torah it is an abomination for a man to be with another man. I mean, I don't know what, that's a pretty tough word. I don't know what the Hebrew word is of abomination, but it's not a good thing. Are we going to, if we let Rabbi Friedman make that determination, he's going to make the same determination that you can't do that. Heck, he might even go so far as to say he's not going to allow a Red Lobster to open up in Tel Aviv. Yeah. I mean, where do we stop with this thing here?
Yeah, so obviously you're right, and that's the bottom line, and that is the fear. But even so, if the answer to that is, because I'm so afraid that the line will be drawn where I don't like it, that I draw no line.
I think that's exactly what's happening here.
Then that's total chaos. Now, it's interesting, by the way, I will point out that, I was once sitting in a hospital, speaking to the hospital administrator and the hospital, the pastor who was working at the hospital, and they were talking about the fact that there was a certain patient that I knew who was, by their determination, brain dead, and therefore they wanted to remove that person from life support system.
Right.
And they kept saying over and over that the person is not going to recover. There's not going to be any recovery. Okay? And therefore they kept saying he's not going to recover and not going to recover. And they mentioned there would be no quality of life. The person has no quality of life. The person will not be able to interact. The person will not be able to respond to loved ones, will not be able to appreciate anything that's going on in the world, right. Won't be aware, and no awareness, no eating, no nothing.
Right.
No nothing. Okay. Now, that being the case, they said, therefore, no reason to keep supporting the person. And therefore, we should let them die. Don't want to kill them, just want to take away all their life support system, which is very expensive. Okay. Now, I didn't necessarily agree with that. However, I would say that anyone who, confronted with that situation, would agree that life support should be removed, certainly should support executing this guy.
I'm with you there.
Yes.
I'm with you.
No quality of life, because we're not going to ever let him out of the building. We're going to lock him up in a building and never let him out. He'll have no quality of life. We're not going to let him really enjoy himself.
Unreformable, which this, unfortunately, this person...
He's never going to get it, right?
Right.
And he certainly is going to be eating up lots of society's resources, which is what the hospital didn't want to say, but what they were really worried about, is they're eating up all the hospital resources, and they're never going to have quality of life. He's never going to get better.
Right.
Well, in that case, they said, take away life support. And at this point, we would have to take away life support. We're not going to support the person's life anymore. We're just going to finish him off and be done with it. So even by that argument, it is so interesting that people such as myself, who are willing to say this guy needs to be executed, are the people who are saying that the criminal needs to be executed are the ones that are arguing, as I did, that the fellow who is brain dead, or by their claim, should be supported even though he doesn't have any quality of life. Because I was saying, what did he do wrong that you have a right to kill him? In this case, though, he did something wrong. And I think, therefore, that brings us, what's the determinant? The word wrong. That is the key. Is there a word wrong? And people are afraid of actually uttering the word wrong, that there could be something that is so wrong that it will entail the death penalty, and that I have a right to say that what you're doing is wrong, that anyone has a right to say that what the other person is doing is so wrong that they deserve to die. That is the challenge to our society, and that is the challenge that is facing the court right now. And I don't know what they're going to decide. But
What do you think they're going to decide?
Life imprisonment.
You think they will? Well, I mean, it is Boston. It's not Alabama.
Yeah, it's Boston, right. It's because
As I said, I think we fry anything down south.
Right.
So
Because it's Boston, that's pretty much why I think that they'll go for life imprisonment. But I think at that point, that society will have officially made a mockery of itself at that point.
And I think society does that quite often, especially in the last, say, 6 years or so. I think we have made a mockery of ourselves, and this would just be another one to add to the list. I don't know. I think they might convict him. I think they might give him the death penalty, just because. I mean, I think they probably went through so many people in a Boston jury pool to say they couldn't possibly even consider the death penalty. Now, people might be lying when you get the job. The fact that they got people in there who say they would be able to give the death penalty to a person just shows that maybe they're open to that, so maybe they'll convict them. I don't know.
I would hope that some of the people there I would hope that the victims would not forgive him.
Right. No, I agree with that too.
I know that there's an emphasis to do that, and I'm not sure. I can't speak on behalf of Christianity, but people sort of talk about that's the Christian way. Maybe I'm wrong about that. I don't know. I'm certainly have no expertise in that area. But I would hope that people, the victims, would not forgive him, because they don't have to forgive him. They can still put their lives back together and become healthy people and not forgive this criminal and not forgive the heinous acts that he did. And as a matter of fact, I would think that rather than forgive, that the punishment, because if you can forgive that person, then somehow you're saying that the suffering that this one went through, that the victim went through, is something, there was something forgivable about that. What is forgivable about that? That someone else comes along and takes away your leg and maims you, kills your loved one. What is forgivable about that? I don't know.
No, I'm with you. And I think that's a big statement. You don't have to forgive. Now, you're right. Christianity might say that. Would Judaism say, though, you don't have to forgive them?
No, absolutely not. You don't have to forgive the person at all. The person needs to be punished. The person needs to be exterminated. You know, and there's no point for why do I have to forgive? What's it up to me to forgive or not to forgive? I have a responsibility. I have a responsibility to exterminate this person. Forgive, not forgive. Well, that's nothing to do with it. No. He has to pay with his life. Sometimes black and white is just right, and I got to agree with the rabbi on this one. You know, this is pretty much black and white. Kill him, that's what I say. All right, we'll see you next week, and if we get an update on this story, we'll come back and talk about it again. But we'll see you next week.